Good morning children. My name is Richa and here I am with my video on transport in plants. So in this video we'll be talking about how water and minerals are transported throughout the plant body. So we'll talk about what is transport. So in general term, what do you mean by transport? In general term, transport means moving from one place to another. So when we talk about transport in living organisms, so it is the transport of the substances that has been absorbed like water, or the substances which has been prepared like the food prepared in the leaves of the plant, and to be that has to be carried to various parts of the body. So transport is a life process in which substances absorbed, that is water and minerals, are made in one part of the body, like your leaves make food of an organism, is carried to other parts of the body. So before we go into deep into plants and other, let's talk about how transport takes place in unicellular organisms. So if you see in unicellular organism, I'll take the most common example, that is amoeba. It takes place by diffusion. So now diffusion is possible in case of unicellular organism because it's just made up of one cell. So look here, this is the structure of amoeba. So here the nutrients which are present in the food vacuole, what happens, it gets diffuses into the cytoplasm. Also the food is excreted out by, waste is excreted out by diffusion or exocytosis. So this is possible only in unicellular organisms or very small organisms, because where it is not that big. However, in multicellular organism, the transport cannot just take place by diffusion, because cell where is which are present in the center of body or where it is being produced is far away from the place where these nutrients are absorbed, made or required. So in multicellular organisms, diffusion cannot be the source or process by which transport can take place. So we'll talk about now transport in plants. How does transport in plant takes place? So now we know plants take in oxygen for respiration and carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, which is directly from the surrounding, that is air, by diffusion, and hence need not be transported. Whereas in case of animals take in the air through their nostrils, goes into the lungs, and from there their oxygen need to be transported to the entire body. But in case of plants, that's not the case. Every part of the body is capable of taking in the surrounding air by diffusion. We have studied this before in the respiration chapter. So the only substance that need to be transported in case of plants is the water and minerals, which is absorbed by the roots, and the food that is prepared in the leaves of the plants. So the basically transport of material in plants is about water and minerals and food and other substances. So what is the need for water and minerals? Water and minerals, that is plant need water for making food by photosynthesis. You know the photosynthesis process, the equation is carbon dioxide reacts with water or combines with water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll to form glucose. So they need water for photosynthesis. We have discussed the entire process of photosynthesis in detail. So you can check my previous videos for the same. So mineral salts also, along with the water, the mineral salts which are dissolved in it are taken in by the plants. These mineral salts are required for production of various other substances like proteins. So the main tissues which are involved in transportation in plants is xylem, and that is for water and minerals, and phloem for the food prepared in the leaves. So these are the xylem tissues and these are the phloem tissues. So if you see here, can you see the arrows? It's going only in one direction. So in case of water and minerals, that is xylem, the flow is unidirectional, that is it is towards the tip of the plant. However, if you see in phloem, the food arrows are pointing downward as well as upward. So food which is prepared in the leaves of the plant is transported upward wherever the food is required as well as downward, that is towards the roots. So it is bidirectional. The translocation of food is bidirectional, whereas movement of water or ascent of sap is unidirectional. So we'll discuss this in detail. So we'll talk about now xylem transport. So what are xylem? Before I go into xylem transport, we should know what is xylem and how does it look like. So xylem vessels are non-living long tube which runs like a drain pipe, the drain pipe which you have in your kitchen and all, along the length of the plants. So they are made of many hollow dead cells. They are called as vessels and they are joined end to end. Since vessels, they are joined. Now this vessel is joined to another vessel end to end and it forms a tube like a structure. So they run from the roots of the plant to the tip of the stem and each leaves. So now these xylem vessels do not contain cytoplasm or nuclei. That is why they are dead cells. So walls of xylem is made up of cellulose and lignin. The function of cellulose and lignin, they are very hard at the same time. When we talk about transport and we'll talk about cohesion adhesion theory, this will help. We'll see how it does it. This helps. So they are a very hard and strong substance. So they are, the walls of xylem is made up of cellulose and lignin. However, they have pits present on their walls, thick walls. So these are not actually the holes. They are the place where the deposition of lignin is less. So it becomes little thinner at this position. So they are called as pits. So in flowering plants, either only xylem vessels or both xylem vessel and trachees transport water. However, it is not the same case in non-flowering plants. We'll see later. So then another part of the xylem which takes part in transport of water is the tracheids. So tracheids are long, thin, spindle shaped which are thick at the center and tapers towards the end, just like your roller pin, the one which is used for making chapati, roller pin. So it is like the same. So it is spindle shaped cells with pit in their thick cell walls. So they do not have open ends. Just like vessels, they do not have open ends. They have pits on their walls. So through this pit, the transport of water takes place from one tracheid to another. So they have pits on their walls, so water can pass through one tracheids to another. So these are the only water conducting tissues in non-flowering plants. Flowering plants are angiosperm. Non-flowering plants which are not angiosperm, gymnosperm, pteridophytes, all these belongs to non-flowering plants. So these will have only trachees for the transportation of water. So now we'll talk about ascent of sap. So before I go into the topic, let's learn what is ascent of sap. So sap is a liquid or the water which is absorbed by the plant has got dissolved minerals in it. So this dissolved minerals along with certain sugars are called as sap. So here we will talk about ascent of sap, how sap moves in the plant or how it is transported. So the upward movement of water and mineral salts from the roots to the aerial parts of the plant. So from the root, water is absorbed along with the minerals and is moved to the in upward direction, and this goes against the gravitational force. We know that gravitational force acts in the downward direction, whereas movement of sap takes place in upward direction. So this is against the gravitational force and is called as ascent of sap. Now to explain this ascent of sap, various theories were given, like capillarity of xylem trachees, imbibition activity theory of cell wall, but most of these theories were not found to be good enough to explain the ascent of sap. So that, but the two theories which we currently use is the root pressure theory and the transpirational pull and cohesion adhesion theory. Other theories which are not said to be um, good enough to explain ascent of sap, you will have to study in higher classes. So let's talk about root pressure theory. So before I go into root pressure theory, let's talk about root. So root, you know, it is found inside the soil, and from the root, their epidermal layer comes out to form a root hair. So this epidermal layer is just one membrane layer. So now talk about root pressure theory. So this root pressure theory is about passive absorption. When I talk about passive absorption, I mean here there is no involvement of energy. In this, the movement of water inside the root hair does not include expenditure of energy in the form of ATP, and this is done by the process of osmosis. Now, how do you explain osmosis? Osmosis is the process in which water moves from its region of higher concentration to its region of lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Now, when I explain the structure of root hair, I said it is just a epidermal layer. So, whenever inside this root the concentration of solute increases, that is, inside the root the amount of solute is more and the water concentration is less. That means the water concentration outside the root is more. So what happens? Due to osmosis, water from outside enters into the root cells, and this moves across the root membranes into the plant's water and nutrient transportation system. I'll explain this with the diagram in the next slide. So this difference in mineral concentration is brought about. How is salt made more in the root hairs? So with the expenditure of ATP, salts are accumulated inside the cells. So as the water enters the roots via osmosis, the xylem cells fill up and bloat, putting pressure on the more rigid outer cells of the root. So they have more pressure on the root cells, and this pressure levels are low outside the plant and causes the water to be forced up the plants. And because of this pressure, the water is made to move up despite the force of gravity. To explain the root pressure theory, what we have an experiment here. So if you see here, in this what happened is a part of a potted plant is cut. The cut stump of a well watered plant, and to this a mercury manometer was added. You will see the water forced into this mercury manometer, causing it to rise here. So this proved that root pressure theory can lead to ascent of sap. However, this force was not very much. So it was also concluded that root pressure theory is applicable only in small plants. It cannot be possible for this pressure to send water up the tip of the very large plant. So this root pressure theory is explainable only in case of small herbaceous plants or small plants where root pressure can push the water till its tip. Also, another experiment was conducted where even if the root was cut, there was a pressure which was leading to the upward movement of the water. This also showed that other than root pressure, there is another pressure which is causing the water to move upward. So we'll demonstrate what we will call it as another experiment to explain transpirational pull and cohesion adhesion theory. I'll discuss this in the next slide, but before this I want to explain this particular experiment. So in this, what is there? This is mercury. So a mercury was filled up in this vessel, and here is there a porous spot, and here in this tube you have water and this is porous spot. So what happens when it is placed in the sun, evaporation takes place, that is water evaporates. So when water evaporates, its vacuum is created, so water from here moves upward. So even the level of mercury in this increases. This is called as transpirational pull, the pull which is caused due to cause of transpiration. So the same was made with a plant. So here they have placed this vessel with the mercury, then mercury is there in this and water here, and a stump plant was, part of the plant was placed here. So it can taking water, at the same time transpiration is taking place. Due to this, mercury from this vessel rised up this tube. This shows that transpiration causes a pull which is called as transpiration pull. And we will talk about cohesion adhesion theory in the next slide. So the transpirational pull and cohesion adhesion theory. So cohesion, the mutual what is cohesion? When the force of attraction between the molecules is between a similar type of molecules, it is called as cohesion. In this case, there is mutual attraction between water molecules and this is called as cohesion, and this value may be around 350 atmospheres. So the walls, at the same time, there is another force known as adhesion. What is adhesion? When force of attraction is between different molecules, it is called as adhesion. That is why you have so many adhesives which joins the two different substances. So let's stick to cohesion. So the walls of the trachees and vessels of xylem are made up of lignin and cellulose which have great affinity for water. So this force of affinity between two different molecules is called as adhesion. So that the force of attraction which exists between the walls of trachees and vessels with the water molecules is called as adhesion. I told you I'll explain about this function of lignin and cellulose when we talk about adhesion and cohesion and adhesion theory. So here, so cohesion, mutual attraction between the water molecules, and adhesion, attraction between the walls of the vessels and water. So this cohesion and adhesion results in a continuous layer of water when it is pulled up. So the transpirational pull, as I have explained in my previous diagram, what happens? From the leaves, water is moved out in the form of water vapor by the process of transpiration. So water from the soil gets pulled up just like we saw in last diagram, and this water is a continuous column because of cohesion and adhesion. So the transpirational pull develops a negative pressure or tension in the xylem sap which is transmitted down the root. So negative pressure due to which water is pulled upward. Due to transpiration of water, DPD, diffusion pressure deficit, a deficit which is caused due to diffusion in the mesophyll cell increases, and water is therefore absorbed by the cell walls from the protoplasm, which in turn takes water from the vacuoles of the cells. The DPD of xylem elements increases. So this is how water is pulled in the upward direction. Now I will be explaining about DPD. Those who have those who are in class 10 and want to skip it can skip it, but this is just for your knowledge. So the term DPD was proposed by Mayer in the year 1938. So what is DPD is the tendency of water to move was used to be measured in the form of diffusion pressure. So it was believed that the pure solvent had the maximum diffusion pressure, that is the pressure to diffuse from one place to another. So this deficit was when more solutes are added to a particular solvent like water, it results in decrease in the diffusion pressure, and this decrease in diffusion pressure is called as deficit. So this deficit was termed as diffusion pressure deficit, which is also called as suction pressure. The term suction pressure was coined by Renner. So the greater the concentration of the solution, greater is its diffusion pressure deficit. More is the concentration of a solution. So in other words, if an osmosis has to take place, it takes place from a region of lower DPD to a region of higher DPD. Means जहाँ पे वाटर का डेफिसिट कम है, तो यानी कि वहाँ पे वाटर का कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ज़्यादा है. Where the deficit of water is less and the concentration of water is more, from a region of lower deficit, diffusion pressure deficit, to a region of higher diffusion pressure deficit, means a region where the concentration of water is less or where the deficit is more, so diffusion pressure deficit. So usually we mention DPD is OP minus TP. TP stands for Turgor pressure. We'll discuss this later when we talk about Turgor pressure and all. So what is the importance of transpiration? So transpiration controls the rate of absorption of water from soil. Say for instance only water gets absorbed into the plant and it is not being removed as transpiration. We know water which is used for photosynthesis is very less. The pressure on the cells of the plant will be more. So transpiration is a way by which it controls the rate of absorption of water from the soil. It also helps in the absorption of mineral salts. It helps in the ascent of sap, we have already discussed. It regulates the temperature of the plant. So whenever water evaporates from the plants, it takes some heat from it, and this helps in cooling down not only the plants but also the surrounding area. It helps in getting rid of excess water which is absorbed by the plant. So what is the disadvantage of transpiration? Most of the water which is absorbed by the plant is transpired. So transpiration is a necessary evil. Wilting or loss of turgidity. Whenever transpiration is more than that of absorption, the water in the soil is less but the transpiration rate is high, the plants wilt. Also reduced growth. If there is less of water, less will be the growth of the plant. So this is the disadvantage of transpiration. So that's the end to my lecture on transport in plants. Hope my video has helped you understand transport in plants better. Keep coming back to my channel for watching more such educational videos, and thank you again for watching the videos. Thank you.